purposefully engage with media in which Black women are simping over white women. I enjoy my self-worth a little bit too much for that. Now, sometimes they'll pop up, and if it's cute, I'll with it. If it's not, and a lot of the time it's not. The one thing that it did tell me was that they're gonna fuck aggressively. If you see me reading this book, leave me alone. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Neida, and this is a little corner of the internet where I talk about literally whatever I want. Today, I wanted to talk shit about a bunch of books that I'm never reading. If you catch me reading them, call the lady, okay? Call the lady and tell her to come get me and take me to the insane asylum, because there's no reason that I should have these books. Now, I will say, some of these are books that I have mentioned that I was interested in reading in the past, and then my self-preservation instinct kicked back in and I said, oh, actually, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna hurt myself in that way. I've discovered the hard way that I'm not the type of person who can read a book. Shout out to Reads with Rachel. There's so many books, several that are on this list, that I have read through her solely because she has whatever it takes to sit through something horrible and enjoy it, because she knows how much she gets to dump on it later. I can't do that. I simply suffer. These are books that will never be seeing my TBR and or bookshelf unless something is severely wrong. These are also all books that have gotten popular through the web app TikTok. I'm not gonna go into BookTok. I made a whole video about BookTok that I will link in the card somewhere. I love it. I think it's great because I think anybody reading anything is great, but also, yeah, some of these books that the girls on TikTok are absolutely obsessed with, I fear for your health and well-being. I wish the best for you as a person. And if you're okay and you just like these books, great. I'm so happy for you. If any of these are your favorite books, I'm sure a lot of these too that I'm going to bring up are popular, well written, well done. People love them for a reason. I just won't be reading them, and I'll be getting more into why I won't be reading them very, very soon. I also feel fine saying that I would never read something and or judging things that I know that I would never interact with, because no one's going to beat my ass. And that is that on that. I'm going to ask you to subscribe to this channel. I put out videos hopefully every week about literally whatever I want to talk about. Sometimes it's books, sometimes it's movies, TV shows, pop culture, whatever is intriguing me at that moment. Give this video a thumbs up if you have read and hated any of these books, read and loved any of these books, or if you agree with anything that I say. Comment down below also if any of these are a favorite of yours and you want to make the case that I should take it off my will never read list. And on this podcast that I listen to called The Read, they call it the sick and shut in list. Like, you're sick, you're shut in, I'm not talking about this topic anymore. This is my sick and shut in list of books. So if you want me to take any of these books off the sick and shut in list, let me know in the comments down below why. Anyways, let's get right into this video. Starting at the bottom with the D tier, we have Written by Sarah J. Maas. Now, not every book that ends up in this tier will be written by Sarah J. Maas. Not every book that's written by Sarah J. Maas will end up in this tier. But Sarah J. Maas is my nemesis, and the words that she writes on paper baffle me as to how some of them were printed in the sequence in which they were printed. It absolutely baffles me how the things that she writes come out the way that they do. And I hate very many of the books that she has ever put out. So Written by Sarah J. Maas is basically saying horrid shit will never be touching my eyeballs, not in this lifetime. Once again, not exclusive to books written by Sarah J. Maas, and not all books written by Sarah J. Maas will end up in this tier. Next up, we have the editors at Bloomsbury. Bloomsbury is the company that allegedly edits Sarah J. Maas's novels. I say allegedly edits because how the has every Court of Thorns and Roses book gotten 200 pages longer with each release, but less and less is happening in them? It's like they're removing plot points and adding more words. It's very baffling, and I'm convinced that either she does not have an editor at Bloomsbury, or she has the editor locked up in her basement, like chained to a computer, and she is forcing them to like type emails in their own voice so that she can basically do whatever she wants. This is for a book that is bad and I'm never gonna read it, but like if someone could probably convince me. Written by Sarah J Maas, you could never convince me. Unless you pay me United States dollars, you could never convince me to read that book. Our mid-tier is an Emily Henry novel. This might be a controversial statement. The girls on TikTok love Emily Henry. I think she's cute. I've never read anything that I've been blown away by. I tried to read Beach Read, don't really love it. I did read Book Lovers, it was fine. I started the new one, which came out on my birthday. It's called Funny Story, I think. It was great, but I had to return it to the library before I could finish it. So I don't know if I would have liked that one all the way through. However, my experience with Emily Henry is mid-tier. This is for books that I don't want to read this, but if there was literally nothing else except this book available, yeah, maybe I'd pick it up. The A tier is entitled The Crow Club. This might be controversial, mainly to my friend Claire, but hear me out, okay? I love Six of Crows. Six of Crows is a TikTok popular book written by TikTok popular author Leigh Bardugo, who has written a bunch of other books that are very popular on TikTok. Six of Crows, the duology, was one of my favorite books that I read last year. Really like the world building, really like the characters. Some of them I don't as much as others, but it's a great series. There are a couple of things that stop it from being a full 5-star read for me, which is why it is the A tier on this. So this is for books that I'm like, I'll think about it based off of the vibes and or synopsis of the novel. Finally, we have S tier, which is called HTTP 404 not found, because I do not believe that any of these books will end up in the S tier. I know I probably seem like a like making fun of books that people love, but I'm allowed to do that the same way that other people are allowed to love these books. Let's start with The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I'm going to put this in the editors at Bloomsbury tier because I refuse to read this book. However, I understand that people like it, and I guess I get why people like it, so it's not so bad that I'll never read it. If someone, once again, pays me money, I'd probably read it, but I don't want to. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is about an actress named Evelyn Hugo who is being interviewed for she's old as fuck, she's about to die, she's being interviewed for some sort of magazine article, and it discusses the 7 husbands that she's had in her life, but also like other relationships that she's had and how she went from relative obscurity and being a immigrant to the United States from Cuba to being like basically the Elizabeth Taylor of her time. This is something that sounds like it would be right up my alley. However, I read Daisy Jones and the Six, which is also by Taylor Jenkins Reid. TikTok loves Taylor Jenkins Reid. I hated that book. I absolutely hated it. The way that it was written was horrible. And from what I understand, Seven Husbands is a similar structure where it's all written like an interview transcript. Cute for an interview, but not for a novel where people have to have like dialogue and action has to take place as opposed to just telling the audience exactly what's going on. I also think that Taylor Jenkins Reid is kind of weird. Like, I just assumed that she was Latina because she always writes about Latinas and like secret Latinas. Like, so I assumed that she was like passing or whatever. She's not, as far as I've been able to glean. If anybody knows anything else in the comments down below, if her like unmarried name is something obviously Latina, let me know. But like, I don't particularly like the way that she writes books, so I'm not particularly interested in reading any more of them. Next up, let's go with a nice TikTok classic. Okay, we have Anything written by Colleen Hoover, and I'm going to be a little bit controversial and put this in the mid-tier. An Emily Henry novel. Once again, someone could maybe convince me to finish a Colleen Hoover novel. However, I have started 4 separate ones and been physically incapable of finishing them. The thing about me is that I'm not afraid to DNF a book. I'm not afraid to say, no more of this. I'm done. I'm tired. I don't like it. I don't want to, because I don't like suffering. And what I've learned being alive for the 26 years that I have been alive is that a lot of people do in fact enjoy suffering. They seek it out. They move towards it. When they feel it, that is the signal to them. oh, I need to have more of this experience in my life. I need to be around this person more often because I like that. Whatever that is, I'm the opposite. If I suffer, I want to go in the opposite direction. And attempting to read the 4 Colleen Hoover books that I attempted to read, I suffered. I tried to read It Ends With Us, Verity, November 9, and God, I think the other one has a guitar on the front or something. It's about a girl who's like gets cheated. I don't know because all the main characters are the same person, and so it does not matter. There's something odd to me and interesting to me about the popularity of It Ends With Us that speaks to the clandestine but prevalent, nonetheless, desire amongst heterosexual women to be in relationships with men who are horrible and then be saved by a separate man who is less horrible. And I think that that is at the center of the popularity of It Ends With Us. And I think we as a society need to unpack that. I'm glad that Colleen Hoover was able to make her coin, unless she's a terrible person, in which case I'm not. But I think we as a society need to unpack the reason that she got as popular as she did. That all being said, I would read a book. If I could find one that could keep my attention for a period of time, I would read it. We're gonna do Caraval. Caraval is going in written by Sarah J. Maas because I watched Reads with Rachel's video on Caraval. If you don't know, it's basically like this, I guess it's a book about this like traveling circus that's also like the Hunger Games that comes around every couple of years, and if you win, then you win like untold riches, whatever. It doesn't seem to be written well, and the plot is not interesting to me at all. So I'm not amazed that it became popular on TikTok. You know, there's a lot of things that can be popular for any number of reasons. I don't have to get all of them, but I also don't have to engage with all of them. Caraval is one of those books that I'm just not in any way interested in engaging with, because I watched Rachel's video and I was like, this sounds bad, and it just kept getting worse. So I will leave that video linked down below, but I don't recommend reading it based solely off of that video. Let's hit The Way I Used to Be. The Way I Used to Be by Amber Smith. This is gonna go in written by Sarah J. Maas. Now that might be surprising. However, this is a book that I've seen this book for like years. When I remember being in high school and seeing this book at Target and being like, oh, what is this? I'm interested in it. It's a book about a girl who I'm fairly certain is at some point in the narrative. I don't know if it happens on page. I don't want to read that. I just don't want to read that. I know it's not from a perspective of like, I think that this would be written poorly. This is a subject matter that isn't worth talking about. But I also think that I can't put myself through undue stress and sadness for no reason. I think that's a beautiful story to tell. I've read a lot of books about this subject matter. Speak by Laurie Halse Anderson comes to, why did I say Anderson like that? Anderson comes to mind immediately. And then, I mean, I've watched Degrassi, you know. Degrassi, you get enough essay to live a lifetime. Of Ellen Hopkins books, like I've read a lot of books that engage with the subject matter, and I just don't need another one. I'm sure it's a great book and I'm sure people like it for good reasons. I just don't really want to read it that much. We are going to go with Fourth Wing next. I made an entire video about how unreadable the book Fourth Wing was, and I stand by that. It was horrible. I know that I said that this was a tier list of books that I refused to read or have never read. I tried to read this. Couldn't get past 35 minutes on the audiobook. It's a smooth 16-hour-long audiobook. Like, the way that the writing was so bad, and I didn't understand what was going on. Me not understanding what's going on, I'm gone. Like, if I cannot follow a simple sequence of events through a story, then my brain is just gonna bounce right off of it. And the way it was written, I did not understand where the people were supposed to be positioned in a scene. And that, I think, is the most important part. Didn't understand the world that they were in, like what it looked like, what I was supposed to be imagining in my brain, what type of society this was supposed to be analogous to. Like, I make a lot of connections gets me in trouble sometimes because I'll read a book and I'll be like, oh, this is California, or oh, this is the Netherlands, or oh, this is France in 1852. And it's like, there was no sense of place in Fourth Wing for me. Violet as a character is just a vacuous space of hot air. When I think about her, all I hear is wind blowing because there's so much nothing going on in her character. The love interest, horrible. Her little friend sucks. That other guy, Zayden Ryerson, why the would you name a character Zayden Ryerson and then try and pretend like he's not supposed to be the main love interest? Like, what are we doing? There's no... And I hate when a love triangle is not really a love triangle. We know it's Violet and Zayden. There's this other guy, Dane or whatever the fuck his name is. I assume his name is Dane. But Dane doesn't really have anything to do with it. So it's not even really a love triangle. It's just Violet and Zayden having this like forbidden romance, and then Dane over here like, hey, I'd also like to date you, Violet, but I don't believe in you. Not to harp on this one book, but like, I also especially hate in a book series where it's like the feminist male love interest and the unfeminist male love interest. That happens in A Court of Thorns and Roses. You know, you have Tamlin and Rhysand, but it's like the feminism of the feminist love interest is you can put yourself in danger if you want to. And the unfeminist one is like, hey, what if you didn't accidentally yourself by doing something that you don't know how to do? And we're supposed to look at him and be like, oh, you hate women. It's like, no, he's just saying things that make sense. But the other one is saying things that don't make sense to vapidly empower her. And that's supposed to be seen as positive, whereas the thing that the guy is saying that does make sense is supposed to be seen as negative. That would be like somebody telling me to walk into a room full of bacterial infection because I can. And it would, and then someone thinking that it's ableist for them to say that I should stay out of the room full of bacterial infection. No, my immune system doesn't know how to fight that. And so I wouldn't survive if I did that. But I'm supposed to be grateful to someone for saying, I think you can do whatever you want, including enter a room full of bacterial infection. Hate it, hate the writing, and the bitches who wrote it as a Zionist. Chop, hate it. Next up, we are going to do I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. This is going in the Crow Club. This is a book that I really would like to read. However, things about people's parents dying, that's gonna come up later. Things about people's parents dying, I know it's like a whole thing about like her life as a child star and being in Hollywood and her relationship with her mom. It makes me really sad. It makes me really sad and I can't do it, and it's traumatizing. And it's also like the title of it, saying the title out loud really stresses me out. I've heard that it is an amazing book and it's really well written, and the stories that she tells in it are like very revealing about Hollywood and the experience of child actors in Hollywood. And I think it's an important book to exist, and I'm glad that it's like been on the New York Times bestseller list for as long as it has. But I also don't know if anybody remembers this, but I think Jeanette McCurdy is a little weird. She dated Andre Drummond, and this is like fine. You know, he has kids now, she's making one-woman shows, whatever, but she dated Andre Drummond in like 2011 or whatever, and she, when asked why they broke up, said the shapes didn't fit, like the shapes of their mouths. And I was like, did you just call him a monkey? Like, I was like, what the are you talking about? I know people like grow and change and learn things, but that was kind of weird. It's kind of weird. So and I've never forgotten that because I have a very strong memory. So just, you know, pump the brakes on purchasing the book that this woman wrote until I have further information. It's gonna become abundantly clear through this video that I don't love a book that involves death. This is not what I'm reading for. I'm reading for the fantasy. I'm reading to escape into another world. I'm reading to enjoy myself. I'm not reading to be sad. A lot of people are reading to be sad. A lot of people like to cry when they read. They like to hurt. They hate it when characters that they love die, but they kind of like it because it like makes them feel something. I'm not like that. When Hedwig and Harry Potter, I put the book down for a good 3 days. They both die at the end automatically had me out with the title. No. That sounds sad. That sounds heartbreaking. Like, I would read that for what? Because I want to dehydrate myself. I cannot imagine a scenario in which I would do that to myself voluntarily. But if somebody made me, or if someone I knew really loved the book and it was important to them that I read it, I'd be fine to do that. You know, I'd be like, okay, I'll read it for you because I care about you and I want to see what the experience was like for you. But I'm happy for all the people who did read it and did love it. Next up, we're going to do Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. So I've seen this a lot, and I've seen a lot of Lucy Score books in Target a lot, and the covers are really well designed to like capture people's attention and be like, oh, what's that? So this is what this, but I've never read the synopsis. I know I always look at it and go, oh, what's that? And then I think, don't judge a book by its cover. They absolutely got me just because of the cover, because I'm not interested in whatever the fuck this is, but this is a synopsis. Bearded bad boy barber Knox prefers to live his life the way he takes his coffee, alone. Unless you count his basset hound Waylon. Knox doesn't tolerate drama, even when it comes in the form of a stranded runaway bride. Okay, wait. Ooh, I kind of love a runaway bride. Wait, am I convincing myself? Okay. Naomi wasn't just running away from her wedding. She was riding to the rescue of her estranged twin in Knock Me Out, Virginia. They lost me again. A rough around the edges town where disputes are settled the old-fashioned way, with fists and beer, usually in that order. Too bad for Naomi, her evil twin hasn't changed at all. After helping herself to Naomi's car and cash, Tina leaves her with something unexpected. The niece Naomi didn't know she had. Now she's stuck in town with no car, no job, no plan, and no home, with an 11-year-old going on 30 to take care of. There's a reason Knox doesn't do complications or high-maintenance women, especially not the romantic ones. But since Naomi's life imploded right in front of him, the least he can do is help her out of her jam. And just as soon as she stops getting into new trouble, he can leave her alone and get back to his peaceful, solitary life. At least, that's the plan. Until the trouble turns to real danger. Is Tina dead? That would be my first question. Are you still alive, Tina? Because why did you leave me here with your child? The Things We Never Got Over is gonna go in the editors at Bloomsbury. I don't have any interest in this book, even just based off of the synopsis. But what it's giving is that it's going to be this grumpy man who hates everyone except this woman, and this woman who's just like doing her best. And I watched Uptown Girls when I was a kid, and I really fucked with it, and then I watched it way too many times and it burned me out on the whole genre of, here's this kid who's super precocious and is the adult in the relationship, and here's this person who's taking care of them even though they weren't planned for it or hadn't prepared for it. And then on top of that, you have this grumpy man who like hates everyone. I don't like a grumpy man for the most part. There has to be a very special type of grumpy man, like Luke Danes from Gilmore Girls. I wouldn't go towards this book. I wouldn't read this book on purpose. I wouldn't read this book accidentally either. But it's not so bad that it's written by Sarah J. Maas. Okay, so next up we have The Night and Its Moon by Piper C.J. And this is another book that's going in the editors at Bloomsbury, and another book that I watched a Reads with Rachel video all about. This is, I can't even explain what the synopsis of the story is. I'm just gonna leave the Reads with Rachel video in the description down below. A white, and by white I mean like sheet of paper white, and a black, and by black I mean literally black. Like her name is Knox because she is black, who like meet in an orphanage, and then one of them is sold to a brothel, and the other one I think is sold to like a house of assassins, and they're trying to make it back to each other because lesbianism, but also not lesbianism. I don't purposefully engage with media in which black women are simping over white women. I enjoy my self-worth a little bit too much for that. Now sometimes they'll pop up, and if it's cute, I'll with it. If it's not, and a lot of the time it's not, then I get scared, I scream, and I run away. And the way that this book was described to me, and everything that I've seen about it and heard about the way that it's written, it's a scream and run away type of situation. I think this is a person who's trying to write a book incorporating different like ethnic groups and experiences that she doesn't have background with, but the research that she did was not as well informed as she might have thought that it was. And so what we end up with is a lot of stereotypes when it could, no. No, I was gonna say it could have been an interesting story, but there's nothing to me about that like visual juxtaposition of the whitest white that you can get and the blackest black that you can get that is not problematic. So I won't be reading it. Next up we have Twisted Love by Anna Huang. And initially when I had read the synopsis, I was like, no, never. But now I'm thinking about it and I'm feeling a little bit toxic. So I think I'm gonna put it in an Emily Henry novel. The synopsis of Twisted Love is he has a heart of ice, but for her, he'd burn the world. Alex Volkov is a devil blessed with the face of an angel and cursed with a past he can't escape. Driven by a tragedy that has haunted him for most of his life, his ruthless pursuits for success and vengeance leave little room for matters of the heart. But when he's forced to look after his best friend's sister, he starts to feel something in his chest, a crack, a melt, a fire that could end his world as he knew it. Ava Chen is a free spirit trapped by nightmares of a childhood she can't remember. But despite her broken past, she's never stopped seeing the beauty in the world, including the heart beneath the icy exterior of a man she shouldn't want. Her brother's best friend, her neighbor, her savior, and her downfall. Theirs is a love that was never supposed to happen, but when it does, it unleashes secrets that could destroy them both. Everything they hold dear. Do you see how that told you literally nothing about what's happening in this book? The one thing that it did tell me was that they're gonna fuck aggressively. And that I'm interested in. I love I'm actually gonna move it up a tier. I love a good soap opera, and I love just plain, straight to the point, naked. That's going in the Crow Club. I feel like it would be a good time. And I would read it if everything else on my TBR was like unavailable. If that was like, if I went on to the library and I saw it and it was available, I'd probably check it out. Okay, next up we have the Zodiac Academy, which I will put in the editors at Bloomsbury. The Zodiac Academy is an allegedly Zodiac inspired book series that I don't even think is that. I think it was just like someone was like, what's trending right now? Zodiac signs. I'll see if I can write a book about that. Or a publishing house was like, Zodiac signs are really trending. People will buy this if it has the word Zodiac on it. Can someone write a book about this? And then they like picked someone to write the book about it. It's supposed to be like a series with all the 12 Zodiac signs and blah, blah, blah. It sounds like shite, like pure shite. It's also, from what I understand, not at all actually informed by the Zodiac. And as someone who has studied astrology and continues to study astrology, because there's enough information there to spend your entire life studying it and have barely scratched the surface, I don't want to read this shit. And I've heard that it's not very well written, so it's going on editors at Bloomsbury. We are going to do a Sarah J. Maas book next. That is Crescent City. And I'll be fair and put it in the editors at Bloomsbury because it was edited by the editors at Bloomsbury. From what I understand, this is a book series about a woman named Bryce who's half fae, half human, and the angel police officer that she slowly falls in love with after all of her friends are ritualistically on a night that she was out. She's like investigating the and trying to get justice for them, and he's also investigating the murders, and there's all these other like creatures in this world that she's living in. It's in the same, like, it's one of the multiverses in the same universe as A Court of Thorns and Roses and the other Sarah J. Maas book series, Throne of Glass. If anyone wants to torture me, you can bring me a stack of every Sarah J. Maas book and tell me to read them, and I promise you I'll tell you whatever you need to know, because wow, I hate the way she writes. Speaking of which, going in, written by Sarah J. Maas, is Throne of Glass. This is her first book series that she wrote at the age of 16, which she always brags about, which, like, yeah, it's a great feat to write a book series at 16, but also, if it gives that you wrote this at 16, then that's what it gives, you know? I'd be impressed if you wrote The Great Gatsby at 16. Like, that's not giving that you wrote this at 16, but whatever. Sarah sometimes has good ideas, but the execution is usually horrible. This idea doesn't even interest me. Like, I don't care about Cinderella, but Cinderella's an assassin. Is that how she described the book? Wait, did I just eat? I think I did. I think that is how she described the book. Yeah, I don't care about that, and I don't want to read it, and I wish it didn't exist, because then that would mean that we wouldn't be subjected to Sarah J. Maas books once a year. We're going to do Assistant to the Villain. It's going in the Crow Club. It's another book that I've seen in the Target a lot and have been interested in, but I have never purchased it or gone so far as to get it from the library, because I'm kind of just scared that it's going to disappoint me. This I think is like a girl who, oh, it says Hannah Marr's laugh out loud viral TikTok series turned novel about the sunshine assistant to an evil villain and their unexpected romance. I do hate grumpy ex-sunshine as a trope because trauma. That being said, if you see me reading this book, leave me alone. We next have Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner, and I'm going to once again put that in the Crow Club. This is another book that I really would like to be able to read, but it's all about how her mom is, like, I'm pretty sure dying of cancer, and she's crying in H Mart in part because her mom is dying of cancer. And books where people's parents are dying in any way, I just actually can't do. Like, it's really triggering for me of memories that I have yet to write anything about. So I need space and time to be able to do that myself without interacting with other media about it. I think other people might read as much stuff as they could about grief and getting through grief and experiencing it in order to work on it, but I can't do that because I have a strong empathetic streak that then puts me in a place mentally that I would not like to be in. And so if I can, I think, work through my emotions enough to be able to read this. I've heard that it's a great book. I like Japanese Breakfast as a band, and I think Michelle Zauner is very talented, but I don't know if that's gonna happen. So that's why it's going in the Crow Club. We're going to do Haunting Adeline next. That's going and written by Sarah J. Maas, because the only thing I know about this book is that apparently somebody plucks out an eyeball and then f***s the socket. And that's all I needed to know. If this is dark romance is not for me. Does he put the eyeball back in after the socket? Is the socket still usable? Why would you think that and then write it and then publish it and then make other people read it and then those people would read it and post about it on the internet? Why would we keep this information to ourselves? No, I'm not interested and I won't be partaking. We're also going to go with Tender is the Flesh, and written by Sarah J. Maas. This is a book about an alternate universe, or I guess like an alternate future, in which the environmental catastrophe has made it so that animal meat is inedible to humans and humans start being farmed for meat. It's written by a Argentinian author, which this whole premise is not surprising to me because Argentinians are obsessed with meat, and that's like a huge part of their economy is like meat and cultivating meat. So I would think that they would go, well, I can't just live my life without meat. What would happen if I couldn't have any? That being said, I don't like cannibalism as a plot in any story. I don't want to read about it. I don't want to watch it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to think about it. I'm not interested in that. And that's the whole thing in the book. People really like it, and I'm sure it's well written. I'm pretty sure it was written in Spanish first and then translated into English. If I could read it in the original Spanish, no. I tried to get myself there. I really did, but no. No interest, and I'm not going to read it. But this is one that I think is pretty good, and if you like it, I'm glad you like it. The last book on our list is A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. I have to be true to myself. It's going and written by Sarah J. Maas, simply because sometimes crying is great and it's a good thing to do. If I want to cry, I'll go watch videos of like dogs meeting their owner after their owner has been deployed, or I'll watch something about babies, or I'll find endless clips of turtles to cry to. I don't want to cry because I'm reading a book that's just about pain. My best friend from high school read this book. I can't even describe it. It's basically about the life story of this guy who goes through the worst things that a human can possibly experience over the course of like an 800-page book, and then it ends incredibly sadly. And I read a quote by the author where she said she wanted to do a writing experiment where just like it's unrelentless. Like, the pain is just unrelentless. And there's no light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm like, that's great that you wanted to do that, but what I gotta do with me? And then the girls on TikTok found this, because once again, this is a book that was really popular on BookTube in like 2015, 2016. And then the girls on TikTok rediscovered it, which is cute. But I already was telling everyone that I wasn't gonna read this shit when I was in high school. Now I'm a grown adult and I have to tell you again, I don't want to read this shit. Don't tell me about it. Yeah. I'm not interested in like 1,000 pages that are just pain. I don't want that. That's not a fun reading experience to me. But if it is to you, good on ya, and I hope you have a great time. But yes, that is it. As I predicted, nothing in HTTP 404 not found, but our breakdown is The Crow Club, I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy, Twisted Love by Anna Huang, Assistant to the Villain by, I can't remember that person's name, and Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner. An Emily Henry novel, we have Anything written by Colleen Hoover. If you have a Colleen Hoover recommendation for me specifically, let me know in the comments down below. They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. In Editors at Bloomsbury, we have The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid, Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score, The Night and Its Moon by Piper CJ, The Zodiac Academy by two bitches whose names I don't remember, and The Crescent City Cycle by Sarah J. Maas. And in Written by Sarah J. Maas, we have Caraval, The Way I Used to Be, Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, Throne of Glass, Haunting Adeline, Tender is the Flesh, and A Little Life. That is my final ranking. Let me know what you would rank down below based solely off of my descriptions of these books. Are there any that you would be interested in reading even though I dogged them? Or are there any that you also are absolutely avoiding for the rest of your life? I want to emphasize that I'm not like making fun of these books because they're BookTok books. I'm just making fun of them because I think they're kind of silly. Again, a lot of these have been popular before BookTok was a thing, and I don't think that BookTok is bad as an entity. I just noticed that I'm like, wow, this is the worst book that I've ever encountered, and so many people on the internet love it. I wonder what that's about. I don't know. I don't have an answer, but if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please leave me a comment down below saying literally anything. It will help the algorithm. That's all I have to say, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!